everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just want to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to go over everything that happened in episode 4 of the Agatha All Along series. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disneyplus, check out that episode, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from episode 4 of the Agatha All Along series, it's Jon Jon Rico!
What's up, witches? like that?
I like it.
That was pretty good.
I like it.
Yeah, I thought that on the spot.
I'm always waiting to see. By the way, it is officially spooky season.
It is. It's October time.
Yeah, it's officially October. We're in this, spooky series. We got all the spooky vibes going.
Hell yes.
It's going strong, especially with this episode. But I mean, to kick it right off, that kind of goes right perfectly with me. In a, kind of, creepy series dealing with, magic and all this kind of stuff. We got one hell of a character entrance with Rio in this episode.
Heard you guys were having a party.
That was creepy. That was awesome as far as a character entrance goes. Like, we all knew she was going to be there at one point, but like, yeah, to give her that kind of entrance, I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool as well.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so much to talk about in this episode that I don't want to. I don't want to skip over anything. So Rico, let's go right into some of your immediate takeaways, and then we'll get more into like kind of the meat of the episode and everything like that moving forward.
Yeah, that initial the initial kind of like what is it, like ceremony ritual that they do to kind of like bring her out of the ground, Rio out of the ground, was really cool. And yeah, it almost felt very like almost like watching like the girl come out of the TV in the ring or something like that, or like even like with like, I like when they do like kind of like that like fast motion kind of like creepy stuff. And like the way they did it with one of the Salem 7 in the second episode,
right,
when they're going down the stairs. Like, yeah, I like when they do that stuff because I think that's just like really creepy movement in general to watch on screen. And yeah, and I think also I like Rio's overall costume as well. First of all, I just want to talk about that real quick. The set design and the costume design in the show has just really been some of like the more fun things to kind of like just point out as you're watching the episodes. On top of like the really fun performances and the story itself, which is like there's a lot of little nuggets that we got in this episode that really kind of like looks like they can forward the story a little bit more here. But man, some of the sets that we're seeing, from like the Witch's Road to like even some of these houses, like the 70s house, Rocker's house that we got in this episode. Even the last house, that's kind of felt it's kind of like the version of WandaVision in a way, where we're kind of taking a journey through different like eras with the style of housing and stuff like that. And yeah, and I really appreciate that. And of course, everyone is just like dressed really well, of course, like in the costume design. But Rio's new kind of green witch suit, which is kind of, I guess, like, when you talk about characters getting like their MCU suit, this is basically like her, her and her full suit, which is really cool. But man, I could just picture her in like some red hair and just possibly being like a Poison Ivy, kind of like a witch character too. Like, she would be like a perfect kind of an actress for that. That was like kind of like my little comparison as soon as I saw like, oh, just kind of like elemental kind of like kind of witch kind of girl. Like, man, she'd be kind of like a cool Poison Ivy. Then when she's kind of like holding like the flower and stuff like that, I'm like, she's got that kind of like a vibe too, where she can kind of be like seductive but also like crazy at the same time. So yeah, it's a perfect little mix. But yeah, it's just something that I've just grown to appreciate each episode. It's just like, especially because we're going through all these different eras, and each witch is kind of like, when they step into the trial, they're kind of like dressed up into that era as well. They're not just in their same clothes. So it's really fun for them. I'm sure, just to kind of, play dress up into these different, kind of like 70s and 60s kind of era stuff. So yeah, I just something I really appreciate overall from a visual point of view.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to a little bit about what you were saying about Rio and stuff like that, like I love when she like cracks, like basically like cracks her neck back into place and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the way that Aubrey Plaza is playing her is like exactly like what, yeah, exactly like what you said. Like at any moment she could just like murder everyone. Yeah. But like she's playing that like really fine line of, you know, kind of playful / just absolute all out crazy type of thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like she's playing a really fine line and she's doing
the Green Witch.
Yeah. That was so crazy.
Yeah. It's just like that's why you cast her in that kind of a role right there.
But like, and then like right after that though, she's walking slightly behind the group and the group's talking about her and they're saying like how she kind of looks kind of cute and like stuff like that. And you could see that she's enjoying hearing that though. So like you can see that she has like normal emotion and stuff like that too. She's just
immediately the loose cannon of the group too, which is it makes her extremely interesting as far as the other witches are concerned.
Right. But just like you were saying, I mean, but before we get to big takeaways, just like what you were saying, though, there were so many like little nuggets that were dropped during this episode about so many different things. We're juggling like multiple mysteries right now, which is awesome to be doing. I mean, we kind of got one solved in this episode. Well, before I get ahead of myself, you want to do some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome! All right, I'm gonna give up big takeaways. Completely not exactly what I was just talking about, but one in you know, an episode filled with, you know, all of these breadcrumbs that were dropped about different things and like, you know, creepiness of Rio's entrance and of the whole like music and demon scene and all that kind of stuff and the curse. We had a array of kind of just this little bit of, you know, the coven coming together and also a little bit of humor. And what I'm talking about is the campfire scene where they're all sitting around and
showing their battle scars.
Yes. Yeah. Not only showing the battle scars, but talking about like the misconceptions and rumors about witches and stuff. And we're just throwing stuff out there. Like what was the thing about the I had a vampire bite me once and I had broke one of the teeth off or something.
Yeah, that was Lilia, I think, right?
Lilia. Yeah. She had a bunch of like around the campfire. She's got a bunch of like little things that she dropped in this episode that I know you want to get into, which is going to be cool later. But she had some really funny, just like witch rumor stuff that she was dropping around, and she was like, "I'm so tired of it." It was just really funny to see that take on it and stuff like that. But yeah, I loved having that campfire scene because not only do you see, you know, everyone kind of coming together a little bit more and kind of, you know, showing common ground and stuff like that, but also you had that little bit of humor, which I think we needed to kind of balance out kind of everything that happened. Because I mean, you know, we had Teen getting super injured. We had, you know, like everyone getting burned from the curse, and just like, you know what I mean. We had a lot of creepy stuff and a lot of things happening, but like to have that little moment of humor and lightness, I think kind of fit really well in this episode. That part, they didn't take it for too long, which was great. But yeah, I enjoyed that scene a lot. Having them all kind of show battle scars and kind of just, you know, talk lightly. But Rico, what were some of your big takeaways from episode 4?
Yeah, it was kind of that like classic, like shooting the shit around the campfire scene, literally in this sense, because they are around a campfire. But yeah, that was really cool. But yeah, one of the things I did like about this episode was that, you know, it was another trial episode, but we didn't spend too much time on the trial this time. Like in episode 3, we spent the entire episode on the trial, and then we got to the exit, and then we moved on from there. The episode ended, and then here we are. Here we probably spent about half the episode maybe with on the trial, because it was pretty straightforward. Like Lorna, was it Alice's character or Lorna Wu's daughter? I can't remember the actual name of the witch herself. But the whole idea of them dealing with like the generational curse and stuff like that, I thought was really cool. And I like how like each trial is kind of dealing with each witch's past to a certain degree. Kind of the one thing that they're all struggling with. So I imagine we're going to get to see, you know, like Jennifer, the whole reason why she's bound. We're probably going to have to deal with like unbounding her in some way. I also like that we got to learn a little more about her history too, about how she became bound. She basically got trapped, and she was like a midwife basically. So yeah, that was all really interesting. And But yeah, it's just like the way each of these trials seems to not only like relate to a certain part of witchcraft that they have to like use to overcome it. I don't in this case it was just breaking a generational curse with singing the song, like the Witch's Road song. It was all in the key. I like how they're adding to the song too, like the episode title itself is kind of like the new lyrics that were in the song, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, I imagine we're gonna get some pretty cool stuff with Jennifer and the Unbound. I imagine that's gonna be like each little kind of like trial is gonna deal with each witch, and I imagine it's all gonna end with Agatha probably and Rio at the same time, I imagine. But we're also gonna get some cool stuff with Jennifer, and then I can't wait to see the stuff with Lilia too. I'll get into more of that later on, but yeah, I just think that was a cool way to do that. And then we used the rest of the episode to actually like kind of dive into some of the more bigger picture stuff here, as far as like the teen's identity and also getting more into stuff with like Agatha and Rio's past and stuff like that. So yeah, I just think they're doing a really good job of juggling all those things together. And another thing with the costume designs too is how they all felt like they were inspired by certain like musical artists too. Like you had kind of like your Elton John, your Mick Jagger. You had the Lilia was clearly Liza Minnelli too,
That's what, yeah.
which is really funny, just given that they're both like kind of cabaret and Broadway like legends themselves. So I'm sure like they know each other. And she's like, "I'm gonna be my friend Liza." She looked just like her too, which is really funny. Yeah. And then I thought it was really interesting how they made Agatha and Rio similarly dressed and kind of like share like and too. So I think that was another reason to kind of pay attention to the costume designs too, because they're definitely telling the story with that stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they keep saying the phrase that the road changes to suit the coven type of thing. Yeah. So like, we're getting, their trials are going to obviously be different than anything else. It's not like the same trials for everybody.
Which makes me wonder if the first trial was all about, Sharon or Mrs. Hart, which is why it's just kind of like this typical girls' night drinking wine, which is probably just something that she would have liked to have done in the first place. And that's probably why that's the only trial that she, I guess didn't make it through all the way, because I guess they talk about in this episode how many glasses of wine does she drink, and maybe they didn't give her the right amount of the antidote. So yeah, I thought that was very interesting how like that the whole first trial centered around probably her not even supposed to be there in the first place, and so that's why they had to do that. And also the exits to the trials are always really cool and creative. Now I'm wondering like what's the exit going to be this time? Like this one was the piano this time, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, again, just really fun things that they're doing with like the set design and the costume design. It's like it's a lot more to look at than just the performances and the story.
Yeah, and one other thing I have to note for sure, like during that the trial part and everything like that, I love that one little teeny tiny part where Agatha is arguing about certain lyrics, like no, it's this way, like yeah. I just thought
that's something that people do all the time too.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Our common misconceptions on lyrics.
Yeah, exactly. But I just thought that part was really I chuckled at that because I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. But
yeah, for sure.
You want to get to some predictions?
Sure.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick off predictions?
Okay, so mine's just kind of more of a smaller one, something that I know for sure that we're gonna get into in a later episode, most likely in a trials based episode, which is kind of learning more about what these random outbursts, I guess, that Lilia is having during these during some of these scenes where she seems like she's totally in the moment, and all of a sudden she's like a button pushes and then she's not out of it anymore.
Which is it? Am I wispy or am I kooky?
A bit of both, if I'm honest.
It's almost like she's kind of like swapping personalities or something. Like I have no idea what that's all about, and it makes her character all that more interesting because you're just like, what's going on here? And now the other witches are catching on to it because they're like, wait, what's happening here? And does it have to do with like whatever like curse or bound thing that she's tied to, or if it's just because she is one of the older witches, it has something to do with that. Like there's so many different ways they can play this, and it just makes me really. It almost seems like she's communicating through another person at sometimes, and then she kind of comes back really fast. So yeah, I wonder if she's almost like a conduit for like another soul or another person that's trying to reach out to the coven in some form. But yeah, that to me has become one of the more interesting kind of like subplots that I'm very interested to see kind of like resolved and within the next couple of episodes, I would imagine.
Yeah, the first time it happened, I actually thought it was the mother, the one who actually wrote the most famous version of the Witch's
Lorna. Yeah.
I thought it was her trying to like talk to her daughter.
Right.
That's what I thought.
Being a fortune teller too. I don't know if she's supposed to be some type of like medium. Yep. Yeah. So like, I'm very curious just to like learn a little bit more about that past, because she goes all the way back to like the 1600s or whatever it is. So yeah, there's gonna be some crazy stuff to learn about her. I feel like
she's at least as old enough as Hansel and Gretel. We know that for sure.
yeah, for sure.
So we know that.
Love that.
They just like I was saying though, there were so many breadcrumbs dropped, like for different things that now we can look forward to them, kind of going through moving forward type of thing. That was one of them. Another is Rio and Agatha's relationship.
Yeah, and
then the third is the one that I've kind of been every recap so far I've talked about this, is Teen's identity mystery. Yeah. We need some like music for it. But anyway, we got some more breadcrumbs on this, and I still kind of think my theory still holds a little bit of ground. Not a lot, but I still think there's a percentage chance there that we have like a combination of Agatha's son and of Wiccan. Like I think it's there still. But we did get another thing, and we kind of have to go out on a limb. There's two sides to this. So during all of this, we see that Agatha absolutely is worried about Teen when Teen gets injured and stuff like that. We can see her very concerned. She's not faking. She's not pretending. Nothing like this.
She definitely feels responsible for him in some form.
Exactly. Yeah. And we kind of get an answer to why. And like when her and Rio are talking, and it's because she does kind of think that it is her son. Like it could be her son type of thing. And Rio says it's not your son. So there's two ways to look at this. Is Rio telling the truth, or is Rio lying?
Yeah, there's no way to know.
Yeah, there's no way to know. I'm on two sides of this right now. If we find out Rio is actually telling the truth, I think Teen's identity 110% is Wiccan. That's it. If Rio's lying, I think it's still my theory of it could potentially be a mixture of both Nicholas Scratch and Wiccan is Teen's makeup type of thing.
That kind of sounds like to me though.
What
is a little like May and Osha and Acolyte? You know what I mean? Like, so I almost feel like it's almost treading a little like they're gonna draw that comparison. I feel like if that ends up being the case, but I also feel like if there was some kind of indication of that, maybe they would have done something to hint at that. Maybe in WandaVision, when Agatha does have the boys in the basement, like she would have like looked at him a little bit different. Like, I think she might have done that at some point because they both display powers, but it's like maybe she does that, but I don't think she. Like, I think they would have done something that would have like hinted that a little bit more, but. I think that conversation between Agatha and the teen is very interesting as well, because he does ask her about like her son and stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm sure that's also what probably provokes the thought in her head as well, because she's like, maybe I do feel something like family related with this kid, and yeah. So they're definitely playing with our heads on that as far as I'm concerned. I'm still leaning into the Wiccan camp, I think, now for this point. I would kind of like it to be Nicholas Scratch. Just because I feel like that would just be a nice, personal story thread to tie in with Agatha. But again, if you're going big picture, I think bringing Wiccan into the fold is a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be upset as long as it's, explained well. Like, as long as it's not just, oh, yeah, well, he's Wiccan, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as long as we get a good explanation and reasoning for why he is whoever he ends up being, I think I'm good with it. Is what I mean. But
he doesn't seem like he has any like ulterior motives either. Like he's trying to do something to help like his mom. Like he's brought up his mom in the first or second episode, like when they were talking earlier. But like he hasn't really done anything where he seems like he's like grieving a mother that he lost or anything like that, which I feel like would be big hints toward him being Wiccan. So I feel like they're really building on that kinship between him and Agatha. But yeah, I honestly, who knows? Like they can really just pull the rug out from under us and just surprise us completely.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, there's not enough evidence either way to to lean on one side or the other. That's why I'm still going a little percent my theory. But like, if we believe Rio, if we believe that, if we believe her, then I'm fully in the camp that it's Wiccan. That's it.
Yeah.
Like I'm there.
At this point, it's like, who do you believe? Because why would you
Exactly.
believe anything Agatha says as well? So it's like,
Exactly.
this is the fun thing about dealing with shows that would deal with like, morally complex characters, I would say, or even like just evil characters, like Agatha thinks she's supposed to be. But yeah, it's the, like, you think that they're supposed to be one thing because then they're the protagonists of the series, but they're also bad people, so they're probably not going to do what you want them to do.
Yeah. Wild cards. They're all wild cards.
It's fun. I like it.
But as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 4? And, who do you think Teen is going to turn out to be? As of right now, just like we were saying, there are no wrong answers, but let us know. Who are you hoping that he's going to turn out to be? Who do you think he's going to be? Who's more likely that he could possibly be? And are we ever going to see Mephisto? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.